Hello and welcome to Cowboy Politics with Tommy Welchman on this, the 12th day of July in the year of our Lord, 2023. We have a great show for you today, my friends, and we're going to be reviewing some more of the trans insanity. And we've got the videos to prove it. We're also going to touch on sabotaging of the movie Sound of Freedom. And if we have time, I may touch a little bit on the cocaine in the White House, because there's nothing like a little blow for Hunter and Joe. So, put your seatbelts on, folks. It's going to be a bumpy ride. This is Cowboy Politics, and I'm Tommy Welchman. All right, folks, so we're going to cover a little bit of the mental illness. And what I mean by that is the severe, overwhelming instance of mental illness that makes one want to be trans. And those who are trans, they display this on a daily basis. I know that may sound harsh, but we have to stop dancing around what things are and what things aren't. We've got to stop being politically correct with our terminology and falling into this trap that the liberals want us to fall into, where we're afraid to say what things are and call it out as it is. Because if we're politically correct, then we're basically just enabling them to continue the insanity, and our only response at that time is to consistently rebuke their infiltration into our society. What we really need to do is to stop this nonsense and the insanity, and stop it as the first place. Just stop it, right? We can't keep winning if we're constantly losing the argument. And the only way that we're going to get ahead of the situation with this trans agenda and the trans agenda ideologues, who, make no mistake about it, want to trans the world, and they want to start transing it with your children. It's so frustrating. And I know, folks, Pride Month is over. I get it. But that does not mean the trans assault on our community and our insanity has ended. That just means the parades are over, right? The dancing naked in front of children and the disgusting sexual fetish displays taking place in our streets on parade floats is over. That's all it means. So anyway, I want to touch on some of these videos. Here's the first video we're going to show you. And this is a man who thinks he's a woman, and he wants to have surgery to have a uterus put in, right? Now, normal people like you and me would just think, well, that's probably because, he's a man and he wants to, try to have a baby, right? Wrong. Take a look at this. I'm going to talk about it on the other side.
The first trans woman to have a successful uterus transplant, ovaries and eggs included, and I want to be the first trans woman to have an abortion. I will let a doctor who has successfully transplanted a uterine complex before cut the organs out of a willing, healthy, transmasculine donor, place them in my body. I will devote myself, heart and soul, to their aftercare. I will have as much gay sex as it takes with as many trans women as it takes, and let the transphobes and homophobes scratch their heads wondering what to make of it. And I want to be the first trans woman to have an abortion.
All right, folks. Did you feel your sanity slipping away as you watched that? Did you feel the assault on all of your senses? Having an abortion? This mentally ill cretin is actually asking for someone to donate to him their female organs. Now, of course, he's talking about a woman who wants to become a male, right? So that she can get rid of her organs and give them to him, right? So he can, as he said in his words, right, sleep with as many men as possible to get pregnant. What a slut, right? So basically, he wants to get a woman's uterus put in him so he can sleep with as many men as possible to get pregnant so he could have an abortion? Guys, this is insanity. It's mental illness at its finest. And the trans movement, far and above, has exceeded what we ever thought possible, even just a few years ago. With this blatant public insanity. And this guy, it's total narcissism. This guy's in love with himself. He's in love with his own voice. All he wants to do is be the first to set a record, to have his name go down in history. And here, I got a solution for that. First of all, and you'll notice this, I don't use the names of these sick, twisted, mentally ill individuals, right? When we talk about mass shooters, I don't use their names. I don't bring them any additional popularity because I don't believe in doing that, right? I don't want to make them famous. I think we should just number them. This way history can entirely forget their names, right? Trans psycho number 1, trans psycho number 2, just number them. And this way they can get off this narcissistic trail of wanting to be the first this, the first that. Forget it. Never mention it. Don't talk about their names. Don't make them famous. Don't make them popular. This guy is sick and disgusting and totally mentally ill. Look, folks, if we ever needed a reason to fund hospitals at the state level, mental institutions, this guy would be it. He is completely, absolutely mentally ill. And to think the sickness, the systemic sickness that exists within that trans ideology has this guy, right, wanting to get this surgery so he can have a child, not to procreate life, not to do what's natural, but to kill, to murder a baby. He wants to be the first to get pregnant so he could go down as the first man to kill a baby in his womb. I know, saying it, it's just all wrong pronouns. It's just disgusting. It's disgusting. Wow. All right, so let's move on to our next video. Now, this video is fantastic, and it's narrated by the great Jordan Peterson. He is amazing. If you don't know who he is, you better look him up. If you belong to Daily Wire, you know who Jordan Peterson is. Jordan Peterson is an intellect. He is I believe a psychiatrist and a psychologist. He's amazing. And he really dissects and gets into this mental illness aspect of being a trans, right? It's called autogynephilia. And what it is a form of sexual response in biological males characterized by a sexual arousal over the idea of becoming a female, right? It's a form of gender identity disorder, and it's caused by an extreme transvestic fetishism. That's what it is. Now, I'm not trying to get too medical with this, but we do kind of have to understand it, right? So transvestic fetishism is a paraphilia of males characterized by recurrent, intense sexual urges, arousal, or even orgasm associated with fantasized or actual cross-dressing, right? So I know a lot of people can get offended, right? Because, here's this guy Tommy on Cowboy Politics, and he's just using the words mental illness, and he's calling us all sick. Yeah, yes, I am. Guilty as charged. You're sick. You're mentally ill people. The whole trans agenda is mentally ill. And there's mentally ill terms for it, right? Characterized right here, transvestic fetishism. And these people, their wires are so crossed that they can actually orgasm just fantasizing or dressing up differently. So in terms of understanding this whole thing, right, being trans is a mental illness. And it's coupled with additional mental illnesses that make people of one gender want to be a person of another gender, or in some severe cases, as we've seen, right? Some of these nuts, I know, right? I'm using real medical terms, right? Nuts. They want to identify as objects or as animals, right? And like those with transvestic fetishisms, right? They have these intense sexual urges, arousal, orgasms associated with dressing up and acting like an animal. Anyway, so let's watch this video here too by the great Jordan Peterson, and I'll talk to you about it on the other side.
Autogynephilia is the fantasy. It's a sexual fantasy generally. It often characterizes men who become transsexual and start cross-dressing later in life.
Those are the guys who get sexual kicks from dressing up in women's clothing and then go do drag queen story hours.
They develop sexual arousal from picturing themselves or acting out being the opposite sex. I think a lot of what happens to these men who develop these sexual fetishes later in life is that there is a part of them that's crying out for exploration of and development of their feminine side. But instead of having that happen psychologically and starting to integrate, let's say, compassion and care and concern for people rather than things.
I am a beautiful woman who could offer a partner, a lover, a friend, empathy and compassion, and validate their feelings in ways that the cisgender men who fear us could never truly do.
Instead of integrating those cross-sexual proclivities, they start to act it out. Say, well, we're just, pristine and pure. It's like, no, you're not.
You're getting a sexual kick from dressing up in women's clothing. And let's not bloody well forget it.
That's what's really lovely.
Oh, there's nothing sexual about this. It's like, yeah, right. You're dressing up in lingerie before your mirror at home, tucking your dick between your legs, imagining you have a vagina for a sexual kick.
Are we topless at the White House?
Oh, there was nothing sexual about that. Yeah, right. Bloody absolute liars. And you can't even say that now, but every clinician worth his salt knew that for decades. Now it's become verboten to even suggest such a thing.
All right, do you guys find that video as disturbing as I do? I mean, I love Jordan Peterson narrating it, and everything he says makes sense, but I can't help some of the morbid curiosity in the background, noticing some of those males in the background. I don't know if you really watched it. If you have to hit rewind, I get it, do it. Watch that video. Right? There's males in the back gyrating and acting sexual and dancing in front of children. I mean, one of it looked like he was in front of a kindergarten or a first grade class. Kids 5, 6 years old, dancing and pelvic thrusting in front of children in classrooms. It's disgusting. And really, you have to be mentally ill to want to do that. I find it amazing, actually, that people can really still argue that this isn't one of the most severe mental illnesses that has ever occupied the shores of the United States. And one could add this intensely odd characteristic that it's not just a mental illness, it's a social contagion. It's a mental illness that's a social contagion. That's freaky. That's weird. That's what we have. And from a layman's perspective, it appears that it's transmitted and contracted, right, through peer pressure. These kids in schools, the trans story hour, the trans freaking slut shows that they do in these schools in front of kids. Now, once again, I gotta say here, guys, I really do not care what the left has to say about this. I don't care. They're gonna point to us or point to me, and they're gonna, tell us, hey, you, ignore your lying eyes, right? You didn't just see what you just saw. And your lying ears, too. You didn't just hear what you just heard. And they're going to tell us that they're not gyrating in front of children like that video just showed, but it's good that we are, right? And we're not going after your children and trying to convert them to trans ideology, but it's good that we are. And they're going to tell us it's not a social contagion and that we shouldn't believe the reports that we read, such as the one that just came out that said 40% of Brown University students are claiming that they're trans. And guys, that's just one university. That's just one. We have to keep in mind, too, this social contagion, this transference of trans, it's happening in grammar schools. It's not localized to the university level. We also have to keep in mind, too, that there's parents that are mentally ill. Sick mentally ill parents who are deliberately and intentionally transitioning their kids into being the opposite agenda. And the parent is usually doing this, right, to bring attention on themselves or their family. But undoubtedly, unquestionably, this is a form of child abuse. And these parents, they should be prosecuted. They are mentally ill too. And again, folks, like I've said before, I'm not a physician. I don't have a PhD in psychology or psychiatry. Amazingly enough, what I can do, and I know some of you liberals out there are going to go, oh my God, he can? Yeah, I can read. That's what I can do. I can read. And I do have the ability to comprehend and understand mental illness. I can read. Difference being, unlike the left, what I refuse to do is to find these creative and no less insane ways of justifying that mental illness. Now, Jordan Peterson does an excellent job of explaining that some of these men simply lack the ability to deal with what we commonly call the feminine side, right? Getting in touch with your feminine side. And then instead of allowing that to simply be a psychological issue that they're wrestling in, right? It manifests itself in very unhealthy ways when they get dressed up. However, if this was just a psychological issue, it could manifest itself in healthy ways, is what Jordan Peterson was saying, right? Such as showing more care for people, right? Being more emotional, right? These mentally ill people, they start manifesting it physically and actually believe that they were born in the wrong body or that they can change their gender simply by wearing different clothes or getting surgeries that butcher their bodies and turn them into something that they're not. And here's the truth of it, folks. A man can never become a woman, no matter how many surgeries he has, no matter how many dresses he owns, or how many times he proclaims he is a woman. It will never happen. Every aspect of every single cell in his body is male. The biology cannot be undone and redone in the human body. It just can't. The biology can't be undone. Now, you can mask some things with intense, poisonous hormone therapy, right? And very dangerous drugs that, interestingly enough, in the trans community, you're allowed to use off-label. Thank God it's not hydroxychloroquine, and we don't still have, COVID-19 going on, because you can't use that off-label. But, trans drugs that make men lactate, which is disgusting, you can use off-label drugs for that. But no matter what, and under no circumstances, can a man become a woman or can a woman become a man. It can't and it will not ever happen. And my friends, I urge you to have a sure and secure footing in your understanding of the mental illness surrounding transgenderism. We must not allow the left. You can't allow the left, these sick individuals that are part of this whole transgender pathology, to try to explain away the truth underlying all of the biology. Don't allow the left to sway you. Don't allow those silver-tongued devils to try to explain to you that transgenderism is either normal, it is not, or that it's the future of humanity. It is not. It's neither of those things, and it never will be either of those things. And it's never been really so critical for us. And by us, I mean everyone who does not suffer from any of the mental illnesses surrounding transgenderism, including those who don't have it, but who advocate for it. It's time for us to unite together and to put an end to allowing these mentally ill people from having access to our children or our universities, and honestly, to the public square. Now, with that comment, I understand. Half of that sentence could possibly bring a rebuke, maybe even from some of you, but definitely I know from the left, that I'm not an advocate of free speech, right? Because I said we got to ban these transgender ideologues from the town square, right? Look, I'm all about free speech, and I'm all about dissenting views. It's fine. I'll debate. I'll argue. Let's go. And yet we all understand these basic fundamental principles behind free speech, right? And we can't simply claim that we have the right to free speech in an effort to advocate mental illness or committing crimes, right? And forget the yelling firehouse thing in a movie theater. That is a pathetic, nonsensical argument. For instance, though, to get back to that, just to touch on it for a quick second, right? I don't think any of us or anyone, not mentally ill would advocate for a movement that would exist, say, online and go through social media, calling for all parents to summarily execute their children, right? Would that fall under free speech? Would any of you be waving flags saying, yeah, free speech, we got to allow all speech, right? So even though this whole group of people's out there saying, kill your children, perfectly fine. What about flipping that on the other way? Like, all the children, there's a movement that tells all the children that if they have any pets in their house, to kill them and disembowel their pets in their living rooms. How about that? Is that going to be okay? Are we going to be waving flags saying, yeah, free speech, free speech? Or, as an example, what about the bogus, the nonsensical, the imagined, the fake trans agenda saying that there's genocide, right? What if there really was a movement of people saying, you know what, we got to grab all these trans people, bring them up to the top of buildings and throw them off? Is that free speech? See, it works on both sides of the fence, guys. I don't just have to use liberal examples to make my point that, okay, that's not really free speech. You're telling people to commit crimes or to kill people. It's true on the right, too. I would not be saying, oh, you guys get in the way of free speech. If there was somebody who was saying, we got to grab those trans people and throw them off the roof. Now, all the trans people and all the left would say that would only happen from somebody on the right. So let's just, for instance, say, okay, I'm saying that would come from somebody on the right. I would still be opposed to it. So it's not a left or right thing, right? It's a freedom of speech thing. And encouraging people to commit crimes or actively participate in them, I don't see how that's town square stuff. I don't see how preventing that from happening is taking away someone's First Amendment right. Right? So the right to call for murder or genocide of an animal or animal abuse or killing your kids, we know that's not free speech. And of course, we'd never advocate for it, right? So let's not read too deep into what I said there. Let's not read too deep into simple statements about not giving the trans agenda access to the town square in every single community we have as an affront to free speech, because it's not. It's not an affront to free speech. All right, we're gonna dive into our third video right now, which is kind of like the first two. It's completely disturbing. The only redeeming trait about this one is that I don't think any children were present. But just take a look at this. It's real quick. It's maybe 30 seconds or so. And if you don't have anything to throw up into, you might want to get something. And we'll take a look on the other side. Go ahead and take a look at this, guys. Oof. Now, wow. All right. If I understand. I can almost heal you guys. Like, yep, just get a napkin. You just wipe the vomit from your face. I get it. If you're seeing that video for the first time, you've probably said exactly what I said. What the hell was that? Well, the obvious, right? That was a biological male modeling a woman's swimsuit at a fashion show in Miami, Florida. Now, I mean, we already know, guys, and fashion shows are extremely eccentric. They have been for the last couple of decades. They don't really deal in reality, right? They typically showcase clothing that only the wealthiest, uber rich people can afford, and only the most eccentric, weird, odd people may wear in some instances. You know, typically that's the thing, you know, where you see Hollywood congratulating themselves at the 47 awards ceremonies they have every year, and they'll say, oh, so-and-so is wearing a dress created or designed by so-and-so. That was at such and such a runway, and it was displayed in this city at this show, right? And oh, the dress cost $723,000. Yeah. So they're incredibly eccentric and odd anyway. But again, you know, this institution here has gone off the rails like so many others with the trans movement. Why in the name of the merciful God in heaven would you have a male modeling a female's bathing suit anyway? And yes, I know you guys are all way, way more intelligent than the lefties. I get it. And lefties that are watching this, sorry, but you're dumb. Potentially mentally ill, but you're the smartest dumb people I have ever seen in the history of the world. So back to my people, right? I know you're going to say that because why do they do this? Because they want men to wear women's bathing suits too, right? Because they're trying to eliminate both genders completely. And if you think that, you'd probably be right? However, in its own way, them trying to do that is really another form of mental illness. The people that want to take men and have them dress as women. As unfortunate as it is that this man was modeling a female bathing suit, it was also disgusting, right? And you could tell. You could tell by looking at that guy that he's had a bunch of surgeries, right? Just to alter his body. What were his lips? 400% larger than they should be. Loaded with what? Botox would that be? Right? Did you see that? It looks like you would take a tire inflator and you put it in his lips and just pumped it up. And huge monster, big blood red lips. It was disgusting. He didn't even look human. He looked like an alien trying to mimic a human that crash landed into a surgeon's office and got injected with Botox. Right? And to make the guy even more awkward and pathetic looking, he had those ass implants, right? Those butt implants to make him look like he had booty. Flat out, make him look like he had booty. Gross. And none of this is normal, guys. It's not normal. And we shouldn't allow it to continue to be normalized. Problem with those, runway shows for fashion, right? They're so damn eccentric anyway. They're all for it, right? They have their own issues with mental health because they're all about the trans agenda and the eccentricity of the whole thing. So they're not going to stop. And unfortunately, I don't have all the answers. I don't know all the answers on how we're going to stop all of this and put an end to all of it. But what I do know is we need to figure it out. We need to figure out how to do it. And I'm not talking about violently, so don't go performing eisegesis, right? And reading into what I'm saying. Just take out of it. Because I'm perfectly capable of meaning what I say and saying what I mean. So just take out what I'm saying. That's what I mean. In terms of acting like somewhat incrementally, at least to begin to put an end to this stuff, we need to make sure we get rid of transgenderism. Let's start with our education system from there, with pre-K. And in my opinion, we got to go all the way through higher education. This ideology, this mental illness, this transgender contagion that's passed through people in social environments, right, as a result of peer pressure, it's a fetish. It's a mental illness. And the entire trans movement, it's a fetish that's backed by mentally ill people who are pushing it on the entire populace of the United States, regardless of age. That's what's going on. It's a simple fact. And if we could at least achieve the goal of rendering our education system free of trans ideology, that at least we have an opportunity to prevent our children and our young men and young women at the university level from being indoctrinated with this social contagion causing mental illness. That would be a great place to start. Get it out of the schools. Can any of you imagine any of this happened 30, 40, 50 years ago when some of us watching this show were kids? Over 50 years ago for me? Come on. None of this would be accepted. Parents would be outraged. Outraged. Speaking of outrage, I can almost hear like the liberal rage out there at the fact that someone is calling them out and doing so absent of the typical soft speech and the grace and the mercy to which they have so become accustomed. Because they're not going to get any of that stuff from me. They're not going to get the soft talk and the gentle attitude from me. No, ma'am. No, sir. Right? Two genders. Man, woman. And I know I'm not perfect in all areas of my life, and I get that. I get it. And I understand lefties, right? My podcast doesn't get 100,000 views per episode. It doesn't. I get it. Not even close. And I'm well aware of the fact that there's people out there doing what I do with way larger crowds, making a ton of money. Think that's going to intimidate me? And you liberals can yell and scream and tell me how bad I suck and that I'll never get there. I'll never be that guy. I don't care. I don't care. I didn't start doing the podcast to make friends anyway, especially not with you, liberals. I started this to speak truth into the moment. That's why I do this. So go ahead, rail, yell, scream. I don't care. I don't care. I'm unafraid. It doesn't matter to me. Say what you want. At no time did I think that me kind of doing this stuff and the podcasts and calling trans ideology exactly what it is, a mental illness, and that mental illness being backed and supported by people who are also mentally ill, and think that I was not going to come under attack. Again, the difference is that I don't care. I don't care about your attempts to attack me. I'm going to speak truth no matter what. And you trans ideologists, you have no idea how complicated I'm going to make things for you. You better hope you're right that I fail. You better hope that, right? You have no idea how we're highly motivated, sane people who love our country, and you have no idea how capable we are of instituting change. And you have no idea what we're able to accomplish. And all that I'm stating, all of that, without violence. So you liberals can just stay in your happy little imaginary dream world with your unicorns and your rainbows. Because here in the real world, your number's been pulled. Your agenda, your ideology, your sickness, your disease, it's been noticed. It's been well documented. And now it's all over video and audio everywhere. So you're exposed. We know what you want. We know what you're going to do. And we're not going to allow it. It will come to a screeching halt. It's just a matter of when, dear liberals. It's a matter of when. All right. That's it with the videos, guys. I'm going to put up a picture here over my left. And I know most of you may have already heard about this. I don't even know what to say. I'm going to try to run through this because this just tears me up, right? This here is the Miss Universe, Miss Netherlands Universe beauty contest winner, right? Was a man, a dude, a human in possession of a penis. Now, if you look at the picture here, you're going to notice, right? The winner's on the left and the runner-up is on the right, right? So the winner, that's the guy, the man, the guy on the left with the buck teeth. Yeah, that's the winner, right? The runner-up on the right, that absolutely drop-dead legs, gorgeous female. Yeah, she's runner-up. Oh, and she's born a woman, just like all the other women in the women's contest. So, I mean, it kind of forces us to ask that question, right? That general question. So why wouldn't the absolutely gorgeous, undeniably beautiful female not win the Miss Universe contest in the Netherlands? Why didn't she win? Could it be because maybe gender ideology had already selected the winner before the contest ever began? Maybe. Or could it be because the transgender ideologists, they need to give the children they're trying to trans something to look up to, right? Or a role model where they can say, hey, you see little boys, you can grow up to be pretty girls too. Could it be that? Or could it be that they're just trying to tell the whole world that, men can be as beautiful and dainty as women? Yeah, final question, folks. How about this, right? Could it be all the above? And maybe even more nefarious reasons we haven't even highlighted here that they want to just implement to make a transgender man a beauty queen for a whole slew of nefarious reasons? Just for the sake of argument, let's go with the all of the above answer, right? So is everything. Yeah, here we go, right? A man winning a beauty contest. Folks, I know it's pathetic, but it is worth the discussion. It is. We have to talk about it. These gender ideologues, they will stop at nothing, absolutely nothing, to try to rope everyone into their mental illness using the social contagion methodology that they're using in our schools with our children. Everybody can look at that picture and see the winner is nowhere near as attractive as the runner-up. Or, might I say, right, than any of the other ladies that were in the contest. And if you haven't seen those pictures yet, go look up a picture of the contestants for the Miss Universe contest, and you will see in the Netherlands, Miss Universe in the Netherlands. Let me clear that up. Yes, yeah, I heard you, Mr. Producer. Let's go look at that picture. The women are gorgeous. And then there's Bucktooth Bob there who wins. Are you kidding? That whole contest was completely rigged. It was rigged so that a transgender woman / person / whatever would win. We know it. They know it. And I think everybody knows it, to be honest with you. They all know it. It was a plant. That guy, he's a guy. He's a buck-toothed dude. Of course, this was a setup. Of course, it was decided before the contest ever began. They're just putting it out there more and more just to convince you, right, that a man winning a beauty contest against women is a normal thing, right? Completely normal. They're doing everything they can to eliminate gender, right? Including bringing pregnancy and childbearing into the laboratory, right? They want to, I don't know what they want to do, but it seems to me like what they do want to do is create some kind of androgynous society. Because that's kind of how they gain total control, and world domination, right? And here's the thing. It's not going to be the trans ideologues who run the world. Are you crazy? That's never going to happen. It's going to be their lunatic string pullers, right? The political backers who use the whole trans agenda as pawns to get this trans movement through, right? To get the political people, the politics, the power. That's who's going to run the world. This is just a way to continue to deceive you and to break you down. And you can't deceive a nation, let alone a world, if you're dealing in reality. So you have to do these insane things like they're doing with this beauty queen thing that's now a guy. My God. To get this through really the world, you have to cause some kind of like mass psychosis to occur. And you got to be able to institute laws and rules and restrictions, right? All that kind of stuff that it takes for them to gain control. And that's exactly what's going on here. That's exactly what's going on. The lunatic elitist left is using this trans agenda basically to wear people down and deceive them. And then that's going to cause problems, and then they're going to make laws, and then they're going to make new laws. It's going to be just more insanity on top of more insanity. And then they start retaining power and exercising control. You know it, I know it, we know it. Good to go. All right, let's continue to move on here, and let's talk about our favorite guy we love to just hate, Dylan Mulvaney. Yes, that's right. Loser number one. All right, final shot of the day. Let's put this up behind me, guys. What a ridiculous subject we got to talk about here. Oh, God, how sad. How sad for this bonehead, Dylan Mulvaney, right? Do any of you actually feel bad? Because I don't. I don't feel bad, right? He had to run away to Peru. Bye, Dylan. Do me a favor. Stay in Peru, dude. Stay. Make a home. Learn Spanish. Stay. Anyway, once again, here's this complete life loser, right? And I don't care about his money. Don't roll your eyes at me, liberals. I don't care. I don't care if he's worth $1 billion. This is a life loser. This is a man who pretends and thinks he's a woman because he's mentally ill, right? Dylan Mulvaney suddenly says, oh, I've got to flee the United States. I'm not safe. Oh, I got to go. I got to get out of here, right? He's all afraid because of the Bud Light debacle, right? Because he, did some ridiculous thing with Bud Light and putting his face on there. And he helped destroy, well, not destroy, but definitely make substantially poorer a multi-billion-dollar company. What do we have, 30-something billion dollars in loss now? And this whole thing with Dylan, leaving the United States and running down to Peru, this is the equivalent to a child throwing himself on the floor and having a temper tantrum. It's entirely for attention. That's what Dylan Mulvaney is doing. He wants attention. Wah. That's what a life loser. This guy is a life loser. Once again, folks, just call it what it is. Call it as we see it. This man, who will never be a woman, is doing this for attention. Let's call it what it is. There's no genocide against these trans people in the United States. There is no genocide. And don't stop being stupid, lefties. Don't tell me words are violence. I'll tell you something more accurate. You're an idiot. How's that? That's accurate. You're an idiot. There's nobody here throwing people off of buildings. Nobody's killing them. There's no genocide. It's complete nonsense. And them constantly claiming this stuff, how pathetic. It's really one more feeble attempt just to try to claim there's some kind of violence occurring, which now doesn't even mean anything anymore. Because for these left-wing liberal loon babies who have temper tantrums and throw themselves on the floor, you could sneeze and they'd be like, oh, violence against trans people. You sneeze, yep, your nose blew out hardly. You put snot on and tried to kill a trans person. They're crazy. This is nuts. They've completely undone reality. And they've discredited themselves the whole time. The problem is that their supporters and their backers actually tell them they're making a difference and they're doing good things, and then they keep doing it with a smile on their face, not knowing that the rest of us are actually sitting out here like, are you crazy? You're an idiot. You look like an idiot. You sound like an idiot. You must be an idiot. I kind of find this junk funny. I think you do too, right? What a loser. Stay in Peru. All right, let's call it a day on the trans stuff for a moment, right? Enough with the trans freaks, right? We'll leave those people that have this massive sex addiction and fetish problem along with multiple mental illnesses, all taking place simultaneously. We'll leave them alone for a minute, right? I want to touch on, just for a moment, some of the ironic things that are taking place all over the United States today in movie theaters. It's freaky, guys. Freaky. I don't know if you've heard about this stuff, right? It's really weird. All of a sudden, right, in movie theaters all over the United States, air conditioners are failing. They're just going out. And people have to leave the movie theater. And then there's also like movie theater evacuation suddenly happening everywhere, right? It's really, really weird, right? Sirens going off and those little lights flashing on the building telling you where to exit, and then you got to empty the whole theater and get everybody out, right? March hundreds of people outside the theater. And again, this isn't like an isolated case, 2, 3, or 5. It's amazing. I'm wondering if you maybe it's some massive software error. You know, at corporate offices, you know, they have all that software that controls, you know, the temperature and in all the theaters that they own, right? So they could save billions of dollars a year. Maybe something's wrong with the software and turning the air conditioners off. Or maybe it's a software issue. Maybe there's a simultaneous software issue. If I have any statisticians watching, would you do me a favor? I want you to work out the numbers on that. In multiple companies that own multiple thousands of movie theaters, tens of thousands of movie theaters all around the United States, that they could all have different software that does different things, but all have their air conditioners and fire alarm systems fail simultaneously. If we have a statistician out there, Mr. Producer, if you know a statistician or something, could you get someone on that for me? Get that taken care of. I want to know what the numbers are on that, right? Here's the really interesting thing. This is all happening while the movie The Sound of Freedom is playing. What? Yeah, we're falling for that, movie theaters. We're falling for that, Hollywood. You know what really needs to happen here, folks? And I know you're not going to like this idea. I don't like it either. But you know what? We can't live our life doing what we like, right? That's why we have words like sacrifice. We need to shut Hollywood off. How about this? Set a little projection goal. I don't know, next 3 years. Just like will never, ever, regardless of Bud Light apologizing, buy Bud Light again? How about for the next 3 years, nobody goes to the movies? Just let the liberals go to the movies because, truthfully, they're the loudest, but they're pretty small. Just let the liberals go to the movies. Let them do their thing. Conservatives, Republicans, not another single movie. Cut it off. You want to turn the air conditioners off in theaters when movies are playing that expose child sex? Crimes against children? All right. Two could play at that game. You want to turn the AC off? How about we turn our wallets off, folks? And what does this tell you guys? It tells you that we're actually on the right path here. We're calling out the nonsense on the left. And just call it what it is, right? Leftist corporations who hire leftist employees who are doing everything they can to sabotage the movie The Sound of Freedom because it exposes the sex trafficking world that the left and Hollywood is so fond of. The left and Hollywood loves this stuff. They're being exposed. I've said it before, I'll say it again, right? Shakespeare's words, thou doth protest too much. You're exposing yourself through your protestations. Once again, I'm going to preface everything else I'm going to say with I don't care. Just like I did earlier. I don't care. If you're offended by this, I don't care. If the subject bothers you that I'm calling out the left, I don't care. If you think I'm wrong by pointing out, leftism, including liberalism and transgenderism, it's some kind of wild mental illness, I don't care. It is what it is, folks. You just have to, everybody has to just learn to live and deal within reality. It is what it is. So then we got to ask ourselves the real question here, right? Why would the liberal left in America have such a problem with the movie The Sound of Freedom? Why? Why would they have a problem with The Sound of Freedom exposing the child trafficking pandemic that we see not only all over the world, but right here, focused right here in the United States of America? Why is the left so angry? Right? Why are they so angry that we're getting the word out about this and trying to protect our children? Could it be because they're trying to trans the kids like we just spoke about? Could it be because they're actually grooming them for sex in kindergarten classrooms? Yes, I'm connecting the dots. Of course it is. And that's exactly what they're doing. The left is offended because we, the right, the conservative, are exposing them. We're exposing who they are, what they want. And suddenly, right, older folks who either had their eyes closed or their ears deafened or just didn't know it was taking place now know with the release of this movie what they're trying to do. And the left is trying to shut down The Sound of Freedom because it exposes them and exposes the child sex trafficking that they have been involved with. And guys, it's not just Hollywood. All your media stations, all your left media stations, they're slamming it, telling people, don't go, you don't want to go see this, blah, blah, blah. They've even tried discrediting, right? Oh, it's akin to a QAnon movie. No, it's not. No, it's not. It exposes child sex trafficking. And the left is offended because the left is involved. You don't like it, lefties? Get uninvolved with sex trafficking. How about that? Some of you are in my age bracket. You might remember a Democratic Party 30 or 40 years ago, 50 years ago, right? That actually had its wits about them, right? We didn't agree on everything, and we didn't have to agree on everything. And they did. They had a different way of doing things, and sometimes, it was, we couldn't agree, but it was the normal democratic process for the most part. And it's normal for us to have in a republic. It's normal, right? But over these last 3 or 4 decades, this this has turned insane, right? The liberal left, they've gone into complete lunacy, which we now see manifested in this trans movement and the grooming of our children for sex, right? And as we expose that agenda more and more, the liberal lunatics on the left, they have to try to shut it down piece by piece. And mark my words, folks, they are losing the battle. They're losing. And the movie The Sound of Freedom and their desire to sabotage and shut it down at every turn is evidence of the fact that they are losing and losing badly. So I want to encourage all of you, definitely go out and see that movie. Go see it. I'm going to go out and see it with my wife. And I'm going to support those who wrote it, those who acted in it, and those who distributed it with my marketing dollars. Now, I feel bad that the movie theaters will make a penny off of me, but that's not going to stop me from supporting that movie and making sure its ticket sales are up there. Look, if I was in that financial position, right, if I had that many subscribers and donors and advertisers, I'd go out to movie theaters all over, buy 100 tickets and give them away. That's what I would do. Just to send that message to the left, we are exposing your child sex trafficking. We got you. And it's going to start here with this movie and this momentum. Folks, I'm not letting it go. And I pray some of our other conservative podcasters and hosts and people out there, God, please don't let them drop this issue. Let this be the spark that lights the fire that burns down the left's child trafficking sex ring thing. Excuse me, guys. Oh, forgot to put some water in my my handy dandy Daniel Penny Marine Corps mug. Yeah, I haven't forgot about that guy up in Manhattan there. He's going through a lot with his case. We still pray for him on a daily basis. Just forgot to put some water in it. So, you know, when you talk for 45 minutes straight, you tend to get a little dry there, you know? Let me say this too. In fact, here's something I'd love to see on a ballot, right? I'd love to see something about this. Like, wouldn't you love it if your state legislatures would just poll us and say, you know, should we or should we not make convicted people who've committed the act of sex trafficking eligible for the death penalty? That's fair. I'd like that. Yeah, you want to engage in hurting, raping, and sexually molesting and potentially destroying the lives of children because you're either a sex addicted freak or some money-hungry lunatic and you lack any sense of morality, and you can't tell the difference from what right is from wrong, right? It's my belief. You've earned the right for the death penalty if you're convicted. Yep. I would happily put a little check in the box that says approve. Yes, I'll do that. Yay. Vote me a yay. You know what, folks? If we can get that passed, I would venture to at least guess that we'll probably see a pretty sharp decline on child sex trafficking in America. Pretty sharp decline. And you know what? If we're going to do that, you know, wouldn't that be great if they put that, you know, out there, the legislatures would put that out there and then vote on it? And death penalty for child sex traffickers, and we have to make it happen in 6 months or less, right? To be executed in 6 months or less. Wrap it up. Done with it. No 30 years of appeals, none of that. You're convicted of it, 6 months. Adios, amigo. Welcome to the pine box in the ground in the unmarked grave. Because once we get that under wraps, we're going to start needing to encourage other governments to do the same, right? Shouldn't be doing this crap to kids. Anything, and I mean anything that has to do with the exploitation of children, child sex trafficking, I'm disgusted by it. And I find it one of the most reprehensible acts a human being can commit against another human being. I will never be silent speaking out against child sex trafficking. And you know what? That includes you, trans ideologists and mentally ill trans people trying to sexualize and groom our children for sex. This is what we were all worried about in the beginning, that you said we're not doing that, but we're glad we are. I will never stop speaking out against you either, trans folks. Heck no. hopefully this could be the spark, the real spark that lights this fire and gets America cleaned up. All right, folks, I'm going to save the cocaine in the White House for another day. You know, the blow for Joe and Hunter. Yeah, I'm going to just save that for another day. And, you know, it just hits me. You know, didn't even remember anything about Joe Biden saying something about transparency, you know, with regard to the blow for Hunter and Joe. Transparency in the White House. Or even before that, you know, something, I think it was Karen Jean-Pierre, right? KJP said something about the adults are back in charge, right? Have any of you heard a bigger crock of crap in your life? Biden is the most corrupt president in the history of our nation, and his crime syndicate family along with him. We'll get to the story on the blow and in the White House and that coke-addicted POS son Hunter that left it right there in a secure area meant only for family. And you know what? Hold on a second, folks. I saw something go off on my phone. I think I wanted to tell you just happened. Oh, yeah, I did. I did see this. This came in. Daily Wire. This is from Daily Wire, right? The California Assembly blocks a bill making trafficking of minors a serious felony. Okay, so right before we close out, guys, I got to say this, right? For those of you who didn't know that there was a bill being presented in California that made child sex trafficking a violent crime, like massive penalties. And the legislatures in California today, as we're doing the show, the text comes in, voted it down. They voted it down. So you liberals watching, I would love to hear you explain that. I would just love to hear your nonsensical explanation for why they just voted down a bill to make it a more harsh felony to commit child sex trafficking in California. Disgusting. Liberals are disgusting. And this trans movement, you're part of this. Anyway, guys, that is our show for today. I know that was a rough one, guys. I know I was harsh on you. I know it was tough. I know I said a lot of harsh things. I meant every one of them. I know you're thinking that I could be too harsh sometimes, and that's okay too. I get it. You're entitled to your opinion. But guys, we're not talking about some simple little thing here, right? This is the trans movement and the destruction of our children. Anyway, I'm so glad you were here with us today. As always, guys, I want to encourage you, hit that subscribe button. It helps me, it helps us, it helps everybody who works with me and for me to move up the charts. It helps get the truth out there to those who need to hear it. Also, if you guys like, we're starting to get a little action, a little movement here on Twitter. If you want to look me up on Twitter, guys, I'd love to have you. I'd love you to come over to my Twitter handle. It's at @cowboypolitics_. Once again, guys, that's at @cowboypolitics_ on Twitter. Go look me up. Look, I'll friend you. Just put it in there. I'll friend you. Liberals, don't bother because I'm going to go read about you before I approve it. So you're not going to argue with me, not like that. You want to drop me a phone number? Yeah, I'll give you a call. We'll record it. Play it on the show. How about that for a debate? All right, thanks again, folks, for being here. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And remember, say your prayers, love your family, and live a life of honor. God bless you all. Love you, everybody. Take care.